Hey guys, my name is Luke. This is Lukey Stars, and here is the long-awaited phone collection update as of January 2025. But even better, we're not just doing the smartphones that you see here, but we're also doing the feature phones. So we'll start with them first. They are all in a box because most of them do not turn on at the moment. So it's not going to be very long. This is just the backplate of, I believe, a Samsung SGH, no, GT E1080W or something similar. Let's not pay too much attention to that. This is a Samsung SGH F250. This phone worked before, but now it has a white screen that basically does nothing. Next is a Nokia 2660 or 2620. It again has a cracked display. Next up is the Nokia 6500S. I think it's just dead, but it does work. I haven't charged basically any of these. This is the Samsung SGH C100, still untested. The Sony Ericsson T100, this one does work. The Sony Ericsson T, I think it's a 550. Works except for the broken LCD. Samsung SGH E250V works. Oh wow, that battery died quickly. So for context, I charged this literally just an hour ago or two. And it was at 70% battery, I think, and yeah, now it's just dead. This is a Samsung Star, I think. It does work, but except for the touchscreen. This is a Huawei U1000. It fully works. Let's just be patient with it. And until then, I'll boot up the next phone, which is the LG VUT Lite, I think? No, VUT Smile. It does fully work, but clearly the battery is dead on this one as well. Alright. Next is this very old Motorola. It supposedly does work, but I have not been able to test it yet. Same goes for this Siemens C35. The Nokia 1112 works perfectly fine, but it doesn't have a battery inside of it, and that's because the battery is inside of the Nokia 114 instead, which does fully work. I'm just gonna shut it down again. Like, a lot of these phones have surprisingly good batteries, but this one doesn't. It has a horrible battery. This is an Alcatel One Touch. I even forgot the model of it. But yeah, it's not really worth talking about. It will die soon anyway. Oh yeah, this one's interesting. So this is a Nokia 88, oh whoops, that's not where you power it on from. This is where you power it on from. This is a Nokia 8800 Sparko. And it was a luxury phone once upon a time. Oh wait, the back cover slides off pretty well now. It just needed to sit there for a little while. But yeah, this is actually still sold for a lot of money. So, even in this condition. So, that's nice. I got this thing for free, which makes it funnier. Next is the Samsung SGH E820. And this one does work. However, The display is very glitched, and I do need to put the battery in a very specific position since I do not have the charging port, and no, I don't have the charger for it. LG VUT, this one works, but I didn't have the battery. Well, it doesn't have charge right now, but it does work. Nokia E50, this one fully works. Hold up, let me see where the power button could possibly be. I know it's up at the top. Alright, okay, it just doesn't have battery. That's alright. Next is this. This is a Samsung. I can actually look at the model on the back, but I really don't want to reveal the IMEI just in case. This is a Samsung SGH C920i. No, C520. You can tell I looked through the camera. But yeah, this one kind of works. Its original battery was bloated, which is why I threw that out. But the phone itself has a broken power button, so I literally cannot boot this thing up. Next is the Mitsubishi Triumph. Untested. Next is a Nokia, I believe it's a 225, and this one does not work. This is a Nokia 150, and that one does work, but maybe it has a dead battery. Yes, it does. The Siemens SL55 does not work at all. It has been burned because of its battery being bloated, so that is not in there anymore. And in general, it's burned to a crisp, which sucks. It's a very beautiful phone. Two Nokia 100s. Technically, they both work, but I removed the batteries from both of them since it's not really worth keeping for either. The Nokia 6800. Oh, nice. That one works. This one, yeah, fully works. It even has the battery. It's honestly one of my favorites because it's got this really cool gradient and stuff. Exit, please. Alright. I'll power this one down. I like it. I think it's cool. I think both of these are cool. My back already hurts. Anyways, next we have this Nokia 1662. This one does not work at all. It's water damaged. Oh, and by the way, about these two phones, I got them from the same relative. They didn't need them anymore, even though they are pretty rare from what I've seen. They're both very old. This one's from 1999, this one's from 2000. So, yeah, I guess I'm keeping them, and maybe if I stop forgetting, I will eventually test them. Next up, we have two Nokia C3s. What happened to the lavender one? I know it's called Violet, but this is not Violet. Oh my... Oh, I was panicked. I got panicked for a second, my bad. It was just a bit of the HTC One M8 that you'll see later. That thing is in shambles. Anyways, both of these two work, but they don't have the charge right now. Again, I did not bother much with these basic phones since I wanted to get to the smartphones as soon as possible. The Nokia E52 does not work at all. And finally, the Samsung GT E2200 fully works, and I actually charged this one. I'm sorry if this section was a little bit boring. I swear it will get more interesting once we get into the smartphones. But first, let's shut down this one. Beep boop. I left this one a while ago. Sorry, I left this message a while ago. Oh, and by the way, this was actually in a rip-off of Minecraft. This image is taken from a rip-off Minecraft game that I had downloaded on one of my older phones. But since that phone has been reset since then, I don't think I'll be able to get that game again. And it'll actually be missed since it brought me some nice memories. Now let's get into the smartphones. There we are. Finally, the smartphones. And the tablets that I've snuck in there. It's gonna be a very long video. This will talk mostly about their operating system, their storage, if it even matters, whether they work or not, what problems they have, and any interesting stories if they have any. Without further ado, let's get started. The first smartphone on this list is the HTC Wildfire S. It was sold to me as working but with a broken touchscreen. It doesn't work. Very disappointed with that one. Next up is the HTC HD Mini. It was sold to me as working, and it does work. Glad to see that. Oh, and also it has a very cool yellow back that I showed in my last phone collection. By the way, thank you guys so much for boosting that video so much. Sorry, got a little awkward while saying that. Thank you guys so much for supporting me and boosting that video to make it semi-viral. And I hope that we can do the same for this video as well, since this has taken me a lot of effort, and I would really appreciate it. Next up is that Galaxy Young that I just completely glossed over. It is slightly blue, but it has every problem under the sun except for the display problems, I guess. The touchscreen is broken on the top half. The charging port does not work. The original battery inside of it was bloated, so I had to replace it. It's just a mess. It's also on Android 4.2.1, so it's not even worth doing anything with it. Please let me cancel because I want to see the beautiful background on this thing. Here you go. This is nice. There you go. This is what old HTC phones looked like, both Windows and Android, actually. Next up, we have the Galaxy Pocket 2. I did not bother to charge this one since it boot loops. Next up is the HTC Touch Dual. Also did not bother charging this one since it, while it does show signs of life, it might as well not show any. It shows an orange LED light, which this one does as well. Neither of them work. Next up is the HTC Herald. I am pretty sure I forgot to charge this one, but it works except for the touchscreen. And that's about all I need to say here. If it somehow boots up, then I'll be surprised, but it probably won't. Alright. Again, apologies for the careless performance so far. We're gonna get better soon. Next up is the Galaxy Geo. This one is running Android 2.2, and this one does not work at all. This one's running Windows Mobile 6.1. This one is also probably running Windows Mobile 6.1. This one's running Windows Mobile some version, and this one's running Android 2.2 because that's the only version it can run. This one I do not know. Next up is an HTC Tattoo. Excuse me. This one's an HTC Tattoo. It has a really neat, comfortable rubber case with a really neat pattern on the back. Gradient and Android logo. Pretty cute. And of course, the nice boot animation. I love the little Android logo that shows up. It is one of my oldest Android phones, running Android 1.6 and being released very early. This is, by the way, also the very first time that we heard that iconic HTC audio. Next up is the LG Optimus Net. It is running Android 2.3.4. I also did not bother charging this one, even though it does work. I don't know why I did. I guess it's just not interesting. Next is the Samsung Wave Y. It is the only phone on here to not run Windows, iOS, or Android. And that's because it runs its own custom operating system called BotOS. It never took off, and that's why this is the only phone on here with that operating system. Samsung tried over and over with a lot of other Wave phones, but none of them succeeded. And they even tried later with Tizen OS in the Galaxy Z series, but that also didn't take off. I hope that was a fun fact for you guys. Next, we have the Eden Glowfish X650. I don't even know why I was struggling with the model number. It was right there. It works, but it has a terrible battery, and as a result, I did not bother charging this one either. Next up is the LG KS20. This one fully works. Yeah, I also did not bother charging this one. Next up we have the Samsung Omnia, which, bad news about this one, it does work, but the battery inside of it has been bulging, and as a result I had to take it out. It's in the balcony right now, so I'm not sure how safe it is, but I'm trying my best. We don't have any other recycling places near us, so I really, really hope it doesn't blow up. And it's not the only phone that has had nasty modifications like this. There are other phones in here that have had similar. Next is the Yuppie phone. It was a phone exclusively sold in Romania. It is absolute garbage, as it's intended to be for kids, and every single electronic device that has ever been made for kids has been garbage. Maybe with the exception of Nintendo consoles, because those are targeted at all ages rather than just kids. But yeah, I do not trust kids' devices. Even when I was a kid, I had been given a normal, regular phone like everyone else, and I had been perfectly fine with it. Next, we have the LG Optimus Chic. This one's running Android 2.2, and I really like it. I'm pretty sure this is the only LG phone with a boot up sound, and I really wish they used it more while they were still making phones. This is running Android 4.4.2, but I do not believe that this could have ever been used even when it came out. And it does not work. And I'm sure if I said that already, but it does not work. I just wanted to remind you guys of that. Next is this Acer E130. This one does work. It's, again, one of my coolest phones in the collection. That's because it's got a very comfortable rubber keypad that somehow is not degraded, considering that, well, rubber on phones especially degrades very quickly. You'll see that in not that many phones, but you will not see it much later. It'll be coming very soon. This one's also running Android 1.6. It really does feel like you're using a phone from a decade and a half ago, since I'm pretty sure that is exactly when it was released. Next up we have the Galaxy Ace. I did not bother charging this one, since this one actually does have a bulleted battery. I don't even know why I didn't take this one out. I really should. This is not safe. This is running Android 2.3.5, and it does work, but, like, why am I doing this to myself? Speaking of why am I doing this to myself, this whole filming process was really painful. So, yeah, there was a lot of swearing, and there was also a lot of moments where I questioned my entire existence. I hope this was worth it, though. I forgot to turn this off. This is a Sony Xperia E. I have so many interesting stories related to this one. Oh yeah, fun fact, even though this one is on Android 4, it does not have a stopwatch, so I had to install one myself. Anyways, fun story about this one. This phone came in a phone lot that was honestly kind of a scam, but since all of the phones worked, I can't call it quite a scam. There's a phone lot later here. Actually, one of the phones was actually shown earlier, the Pocket 2, that is actually a scam since none of the phones worked, but whatever. This phone lot, on the other hand, was very, very expensive and had phones that were just not that worth it. This phone, though, kind of made up for it, since it had every single song and photo of the original owner. Obviously, I'm not showing any of these, and I've deleted all of them a long, long time ago. But the funny thing is, after I tried to delete them the first time, I did not realize that they were actually on the SIM card, and as a result, they showed up a second time after I deleted everything. And I was going insane. I was wondering, what is this thing doing? Why is it not removing the data already? And then I realized that it was just on a micro SD card, and I removed it from there, and now it's everything fine. Again, every single game that you see on there is downloaded 100% by me. So yeah. Next up is this Motorola Droid. It's my only slider phone with a touchscreen. Well, besides the HTC Herald, but that doesn't have a working touchscreen. This one barely has a working touchscreen, though. It does work, but it's also really finicky. And sometimes it touches like it touches areas of the screen on its own, and that's not something that I want. Even though this phone is very old, it's running Android 2.2 as I said before, so it's not going to reach any particularly inappropriate sites. I also don't want to have a phone that can basically just take control over itself and do really stupid things. You can already hear it touching itself, by the way. Look at this. Oh, by the way, this was at 80% when I pulled it out the charger, so it doesn't have a great battery either. This one actually does have a pretty decent battery. This is the HP iPac. Don't remember the rest of the name, and I'm not going to bother to search it up again. This phone, which barely counts as one, look at it, does... No, it does not work. It's untested, but it seems like it should. However, as you'll see with some later phones, just because a phone seems like it should work does not mean that it will. Next we have the Nokia Lumia 530. Apparently a lot of people hated this phone when this came out, which actually I can understand, but I don't agree with. I think this is a really neat phone. It's running Windows Phone 8.1. It is unfortunately locked to orange though. That's the only gripe that I have with it though. The internet searching on this phone was actually really smooth, and it felt like I was actually using one of my other phones from here that's just running Android. Next we have a whole collection of Samsung phones that are basically one and the same. 3S3 minis first of all. Why does this have hair on it? Gross. This is just a shell. It's just for the aesthetics, and I'm pretty sure I ruined those as well because I scratched this thing so many times when I tried to roll it on the floor to try and adjust it, since I had to sort out every single one of these phones by size. So yeah, not very useful, but it's nice to have, I guess, because it looks cool. And it's also my favorite color. It's a really nice midnight blue. Next is the white S3 Mini. This one works. And so does this one, the Wario S3 Mini. It wasn't intended to be like this, but hey, I like it. And clearly so did the original owner of this, since this was actually how it came in. Which I think is neat. Next we have a Galaxy Trend that does not work at all. The display actually works though, and I'm pretty sure I saw one Galaxy Trend on sale on OLX that also had a broken display but worked otherwise, so maybe I would get around to fixing this, but I'm not sure if it's worth it. By the way, both of these also seem to have really messed up batteries now. They used to have pretty decent batteries, so I don't know what happened there. Next up is the Galaxy S Duos. This one is running Android 4.0.4, and it does work. This is the Galaxy S Duos 2. This is running Android 4.2.2, and this one also fully works. Now, I actually do have an interesting story about this one, since I used to have to choose between the S Duos and the S Duos 2 for which one should have the battery inside of it at one time. That is until I got this Galaxy Trend, which the only good and useful part that I took out of it was, well, the battery. And I put it inside of the S Duos. Next up is a ripoff of the Nokia, no, I almost said Nokia because look at it, it says Express Music, but it's clearly not. It's supposed to be a ripoff of the Sony Ericsson Xperia X10, which, yeah, the name is a mouthful itself, but I'm pretty sure the ripoff was something worse. I don't know, though. I wasn't there when it was named. Next is the Galaxy Ace Style, which it looks really nice, but it has a horrible battery, so again, I did not bother charging it. It's on Android 4.4.4, but clearly I missed out on when phones between Android 4.1 and 4.4 could actually download Google Play and keep it safe in there, like for example for this one or for the 2S3 minis or for a couple of other phones like the Sony Xperia E, a couple of ones that we'll see later. This one was not one of the phones that were lucky enough to have that quick moment where you could still download an updated version of Google Play and actually be able to download stuff from the Google Play Store. So yeah, this one is just a little bit sad, even though it does look nice. Next is the Galaxy S Plus, and the only reason why I still have it is because I have memorable things on this one. Mostly games though, since all of my photos were wiped for some reason. I did not do this voluntarily, so maybe it was another relative, maybe it was just the phone glitching, but it was sad that I had to delete all of the photos. And all of the notes too, they were neat. I still have the games on it though, so I guess that's cool. Next is the LG Optimus L5, which I did not bother to charge since this one barely works. It is running Android 4.0.3, and this one's running Android 4.0 point something, or maybe even 2.2 point something. Either way, this is an LG Optimus Soul. It boot loops, so not worth even trying to fix. Next, we have the still forgot what the name for the carrier-based phone of this was. It seems that a lot of carriers specifically wanted ZTE phones and reskin them as their own, Orange especially, but apparently so did this base carrier. The original phone is the ZTE Skate, or the ZTE Skate 2, I don't remember which one. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see how ZTE has gotten from, well, actually they've gone on a very different brand since now they're known mostly for the Red Magic brand, which sells gaming phones, which sponsor a lot of big gaming YouTubers. It makes sense. I think they're pretty cool. I wish I could get one of them, but they're very expensive. Next is this, and no, this is an e-reader. It's not a phone, and I was about to say it's an MP3 player, but it's not. The brand is Besta, and the only reason why I figured out that it's an e-reader is because I looked it up. I searched it on Google Lens, and it turns out that that is what it is. A lot of the touch buttons on here, I had no idea that these were actually supposed to simulate basically what it would feel like to scroll on an iPhone back when they didn't have the proper technology to make a touchscreen for cheap. It's very odd to me. Because this is an e-reader supposedly, so I don't see what the use would have been for the iPhone-like features. I mean, by the time it was released, it was probably not exclusive to iPhones anymore, so I don't know why I'm saying iPhone features. Next up is the Samsung Omnia S7. No, Samsung Omnia S7. Oh my. The last time that I said this was because the freaking YouTube autocorrect was immediately up to my case and corrected the name to Omni S7, and that's why I got confused. But yeah, this thing is a neat color. I'm pretty sure it's burgundy. That's probably what it's called, right? And it does work, but it doesn't have a battery. It's running Windows Mobile 7.8, which checks out. This one's running Windows Mobile 6.1. And this one's running Android 2.3.5. This is an Allview A5 Easy. This thing is anything but easy to deal with, though. Since I tried to charge it, it was supposedly at 100%. I highly doubt that, and it would not turn on. Either the power button is broken, the battery is broken, or the motherboard's broken. Either way, I am not trying to repair that one, since, again, it is not very useful in so many ways. Old Android version, cannot download the Google Play Store, and it's also not very valuable. It's just a bit sad laying around. Next up is a tragedy and a disaster, and they actually mean different things this time. This is an iPhone 5S, and this is an iPhone SE. Now you can see why I use these words. This is the disaster, and this is the tragedy. The disaster shows the Apple logo booting up, but doesn't do anything else. The tragedy does nothing. This thing is completely and utterly broken, and I do not understand why. It is in mint condition. Well, it was before I dropped it several times. So I don't know what is up with it. I don't know why it doesn't work. Next, we have two CT Blade A410s. This one kept turning itself on and off again, and it really annoyed me throughout the entire setup. And as a result, I did not bother to charge it again. This thing is also really slow with charging for some reason. It charges way slower than the other one, so there's definitely some issue there. And it's also completely incompatible with Wi-Fi for some reason, which also doesn't make sense to me. It is on Android 5.1, so it also doesn't make sense that it would be incompatible with any Google Play services either. So I don't know what the problem with that one is. Maybe it's just snapped antenna cables or something. Next is my working ZTE Blade A410. It is in a better state of functionality despite being in worse condition. And no, the scratches on the screen protector do not count as bad condition. I'm just going to try to boot this one up. It's really a struggle to get it to boot up because the power button sucks. There we go. Took a while, but we got there. Next is the Samsung Galaxy Core Plus. It does not work at all. It boot loops, but at least the display works. Not that it makes up for much though, since it is cracked. Now, we get into some interesting choices of mine. Well, before that, we will get into this HTC Desire HD, which does not work at all. Not very interesting. These three. All of these three are all VA5 smileys, and you may have seen them in the last video, all of them with a boring black back covering. I decided to change them up and make them more colorful. Blue for this one, yellow for this one, and orange for this one. Why did I do that? Because none of them work. And I wanted them to be a little bit more cheerful than just three generic phones that do not work at all. And the neat story about these back coverings is that I actually got them together in the box with another one of these devices that my dad owned for a while before I destroyed it, because it also didn't work when I got it. Next up is the Sony Xperia Neo L, and I'm really grateful that this battery is... You've got to be joking me. How is this battery of all of them the one that still has power? Oh wait, it doesn't. Okay, that's good. But it does, okay. I'm turning this upside down since this one does have private pictures of someone that I am unable to delete due to the fact that the touchscreen does not work. Next is the UTalk phone. Don't know what model it is. It does charge, but it doesn't power on, so I'm assuming the power button is broken. Next is the Lumia 820, which I just think is a neat phone, and it does work. It has metal buttons and this metal plate combined with the rest of the plastic body, making it feel like a decently premium phone alongside its OLED display. Alright, that was the sound of it turning on, and I'm going to turn it off, the Sony Xperia Neo L, so I can show it from the front comfortably. Next up is the Sony Xperia Arc S. I don't know what happened to it, but it started to refuse to take the micro USB ports that it would once take comfortably. Anyways, it's running Android 2.3.6, I don't know what its problem is, but this was another nasty change that I noticed only upon setting these phones up. This is an HTC Desire 310, this is a Desire 310, and it boot loops. Somehow this still has charge. I don't even know why. Next up, we have the first Black Galaxy J1. It does not work. But I actually put the battery in this one. Wait, no I didn't. Whoopsies. But you may be wondering, what about this one? This white Galaxy J1, I literally repaired by swapping out the boards from this to this. Surely, it still works, right? It would sure be crazy if it didn't. Yeah, it doesn't. It now has the exact same issue with the board that this one had. So the board swapping really did nothing for these two. I don't know what else is there though. Next up is my only working Galaxy J1, the one on T-Mobile. This one's running Android 4.4.4. Next up we have two All-View A5 quads. The first one... Anyway, sorry for the short interruption. The first one is the one that works, technically. Both of these have the same back covering colors, so yeah. But they are different in their functionality. This one boot loops, and as a result I cannot say that it works at all. This one does work, but then you realize why it's on the setup screen. And that is because the setup screen is glitched and it does not let you access more of it for whatever reason. It's not Google locked, it just doesn't work. Next up is the LG K4, which I got for my birthday alongside two other phones. This one works perfectly fine. Next up is the Nokia Lumia 635. It also works. This one is running Android 5.1, and this one is running Windows Mobile 8.1. Whoops. Major whoops here. This is a Galaxy A3 with it came paired with a disassembling screen. This doesn't have a working touchscreen, which is surprisingly the only problem that it has besides the, literally removing itself off the phone. Alright. Next, we have the LG Optimus 4X, which also has an issue with the screen. The bottom part of the touchscreen does not work, but the rest of the phone does. Next, the All-View V1 Viper fully works. It's on Android 4.2.1. This one's on Android 4.0.3. Next up is the All-View A5 Pro, which I cannot tell if it works or not. It does charge, but it doesn't charge fully. And it doesn't boot up fully either. So maybe it is just boot looping. Next up is the Qbot S1, I think. It does not work. It freezes upon booting up. Next, all of these have problems. The J2 in gold does not work at all. The cracking is actually my fault, though, since I tried to repair it and I accidentally bent it too far when I tried to remove the plastic brackets covering the board. So yeah, be careful when removing plastic brackets, not just from this phone, but from any phone. It could crack the screen if you're not careful. Next up is an S3 Neo with an S3 board in it. It has a broken AMOLED and the S3 board already had defects. Next up is an S3 with an S3 Neo board in it. It works except for the power button. It is also password locked, so I can't even try to reset it since the power button is so badly jammed. Next up is the first Galaxy S4 in here. It's a white one, and it has a broken AMOLED, but a working touchscreen. It is on T-Mobile. This is my next Galaxy S4. It is the gray one. It also has a broken AMOLED. It doesn't have a working touchscreen though, and it's running Android 5.1.1, which I know because I saw the Android version before this broke. Next up is my only working S4. This is the Black Edition, and it is running Android 5.0.1. It has 16 gigabytes of storage. And actually, let me tell the storage for some of these since it actually kind of matters. 16 gigabytes on this, but how am I supposed to use it when none of the apps work? 8 gigabytes on this one, 8 gigabytes on this one. 4 gigabytes on this, 2 on this. Yeah, the 8 gigabytes on both of these, 4 gigabytes on both of these. Well, both of these, sorry. And yep. Next, we have this Galaxy S4 Active, which works except for the display. And the battery is quite unstable, so it also doesn't charge very well. What the? Okay, well, I suppose it just restarted. That's not too bad. What is too bad is this Microsoft Lumia 735. It does not work at all. And it also looks terrible. Next up, we have two Sony Xperia Zs, both of which are in dubious condition. This one used to work, but suddenly it stopped for whatever reason. It's not very nice to see that. It was... I'm pretty sure this was the one running Android 5.1.1, but it just stopped working for whatever reason. This was the one... No, I did not swap the boards yet, so this is the one running Android 5.1.1, and this is the one that does not really work that well. This one is the one that boot loops because of its horrible battery. Does this thing boot loop? I just realized. Yeah, add another to the nasty changes, if that is true. Next is the Alcatel whatever. It's on Wind. It surprisingly does work except for the touchscreen. Next up is the Galaxy J3 2017. It fully works. It is on Android 7.0 or 8.0. It has 16 gigabytes of storage, and it is burnt on the LCD somehow. I don't know how. That's impressive and scary. Next is the Galaxy J5 2015. Both of these are shattered, they both work, and they both have burnt screens. But they work regardless. This one's on Android 6.0 and it has 8 gigabytes of storage. For whatever reason, I put the SD card in here, even though this one would benefit it more since it's more stable in general. This is the other Galaxy J5. It is also an Android 6.0.1, sorry. It also works, it's not shattered, and the OS is slightly more stable. Next we have a Huawei P8 Lite shell. That doesn't even look good, but it's certainly interesting to have around. And we have an actual Huawei P8 Lite that does fully work. And it's in pretty good condition except for the crack on the bottom. It is running Android 6.0. And it has 16 gigabytes of storage. Next is the Huawei Wi-Fi 2018, and it also fully works, but it is very laggy. It is also on Android 8.0, and it has, well, it also has 16 gigabytes of storage, but it is running Android 8.0, unlike this one. This is the LG K8, which could either run Android 6.0 or 7.0, and what makes it so sad is that the display does work fully, but the board doesn't. It has some sort of corruption error. That's really sad. Next is the Mobistel Sinus C5. Awful name aside, I have a story to tell with this one. I tried to take off the back to see the model number and to see if there are any batteries that would fit in this. Guess what? The thing tried to hurt me. It tried to pinch my finger away and it nearly succeeded. Awful. Bad phone, bad phone. Anyways. This thing turned itself on again? Anyways, this is the first A5 2016. The other one is right here. This one's running Android 7.0. It has 16 gigabytes of storage. It's quite a bit faster than this one, despite it running a later version being 7.1.1. This one also has no cracks on the screen, but it does have plenty on the screen protector. This one's cracked on the screen and the back. Here are the cracks on the back. But they both fully work. Next is a Huawei Y6 2015. It has 16 gigabytes of storage. It is running Android 5.1.1 and it fully works. Next up is the Huawei SNG700. I'm not sure what Android version this one is running, but it does work. It just needs a new battery. Next, we have a collection of non-functional HTC Wetamates. First of all, this one in the worst condition by far. It doesn't even look like it should work, and it doesn't work. This one doesn't look like it should work, it doesn't work. These two look like they should work, and neither does. This one has a crack on the screen, but maybe it's just a screen protector since it actually does have one. But still, it's really sad that neither of these two show any sense of life. None of these do, actually. I mean, this one does, but still. Next, we have yet another shell. I think it's the second last one in the video. Yeah, it's the second last one. This is the Nokia 3.1, and even though it does have a board in it, the board is very corroded, so it might as well not be there. The display might work, but I'm not sure. Next, we have a Huawei B10 Lite that for some reason actually turned on for a tiny bit. Not right now, but it did once, and it was really freaky. But it did not last, so that's sad. Next, we have the AllView P6 Pro. What happened here? Yeah, like the light is showing it very well. It's showing how cursed this looks. So there are far more issues with this one. This is also just a shell. But also, what is going on with the display? So I don't even think that it would be good as a shell. Maybe for the aesthetic, since the front and the back are in good looking condition. Now let's get to the two 1M9s. This silver one does not work at all, and I don't understand why. It's in decent condition even though, well, you know, the whole back is coming off. But I've had other phones with peeling parts before work, like this one. So I don't know why this one does not work. Next, we have another HTC One M9, and this one does actually work. It is on Android 7.0. It is on Verizon, and I don't like it that much because it has a very unstable battery. But if it didn't have it, I would probably use it a lot more. Yeah, there you go. It was originally 30-something% when I unplugged it, so. Just goes to show. Next, we have the Galaxy J5, which I still haven't been able to fix yet. I tried to find the display that I was looking for again, and it suddenly got twice as expensive as it used to be. It is still in mint condition, which I'm really happy about, since this is my best conditioned phone in the entire collection. And really the only chip that we can see here is from dust, which is nice, since that can be cleaned off very easily. Next is the Doogee. I don't know what it is. It is a limited edition for some reason, but it does not work at all. The battery is also in a really bad condition, so I'm not sure about it. It is not swelling, but it seems like it's about to leak at some point. Not now, but it sure seems like it's gonna do that. Next, an AllView P6 Lite running Android 4.4.2. Unfortunately, the touchscreen does not work at all. And now I have a different AllView P6 Lite This one was mine for a good while, running Android 5.1.1 and fully working. We'll get into the tablets later. But for now, let's get into the next phone, the LG G3. This one kind of works. It is running Android 5.1, but it does not seem to work with the Google Play Store for whatever reason. And this is on a version of Android that should allow you to download the things from the Play Store, but it doesn't. Next, we have the Galaxy J6, which is one of my favorite phones, to be honest. And it fully works. It is cracked to bits. It is running Android 10. It has 32 gigabytes of storage. It is amazing in its own twisted way. This one has 8 gigabytes of storage. This one has 16, but again, what you're using with those 16 gigabytes of storage? Next, we have the Motorola G5S, and finally, after so long, the screen finally attached to the rest of the phone. It also just works really well. I repaired this myself, so I'm really happy to see that it paid off. This is a 32 gigabyte smartphone running Android 8.0. It is in a really beautiful gold color, and whoops. Turns out my previous statement was not exactly true. Well, but yeah, I really like it. Its Android skin is also one of my favorites. Next is the Redmi 6 Pro. It is in rose gold, which is not very visible on camera since the lighting is yellow. But hey, it looks nice in person. It is running Android 9.0. It has a very broken LCD, but despite that, I've actually been able to use it pretty nicely, since the touchscreen does work. It also has 32 gigabytes of storage. Next up is very sad. This is an LG G4. It used to work for the longest time, but it stopped working. I put it on the charger for 3 hours, and in those 3 hours, it did nothing. It did boot up right now to show you that it doesn't have any battery. And of course it doesn't, but also I feel kind of bummed about it since this phone was really fun while it did work. I had a ton of games installed on it, and I was ready to install more and to make more progress on the games that I had already downloaded. But I guess I do already have a phone that is better for that purpose anyway. I'll get to it later. It had 32 gigabytes of storage. It had Android 6.0, and it had Discord on it despite the app not being compatible with any more devices below Android 7.0 nowadays. But all of it is gone because the phone decided to stop working altogether. Yes, it boot loops on the charger, but outside of the charger, it doesn't even do anything. So I think it's the battery that's unstable, and I really hope it is just the battery, because if it's not, I feel really bad. This is the AllView A9 Lite. Untested, probably does not work. Next up is the AllView V2 Viper S. It does show some signs of life, like showing lights of the display lights up when it's put on the charger, but it reacts really weirdly to being put on the charger, so I highly doubt that this actually works. Next is this disaster. This is a rose gold Galaxy S7 Edge. Warning for epilepsy, for any epileptic viewers, because this thing has very intense flashes while it turns on. And there it is. I'll show the timestamp to where you should skip if you want to avoid this part. But if you actively want to look at it, have a look. This display looks awful, by the way. And it makes me sad, because I like this color a lot. But I can't use it. And I have two other S7 Edges, so it's not like I really need an S7 Edge. I just wanted the color, it was neat. This other S7 Edge is in mint condition. It is running Android 8.0.1, no, 8.0.0. It is in a really cool case, in really, really good condition. it came in a box, and I'm planning to keep it in that box until I can sell it. I mean, obviously now it's running very low on battery, but who cares? This is really, really cool to have anyways. Look at it. Mesmerizing. Next, we have the other Galaxy S7 Edge. This one I have actually used for a bit. And as a result, I have my own pattern on it. Even though it was originally my mom's phone. So, that's a little funny. But hey, it works. Anyways, this one's on Verizon. This one's on Android 8.0.1. Yeah, here you go. This is proof that this was my phone for a little bit. I mean, it still is, but I haven't used it in a few months. I, for some reason, got really interested in specifically Donatello from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I completely lost interest afterwards. I don't know why. Anyways, next phone is the Galaxy A20e that you're seeing right now. It has a cracked screen and a cracked LCD. But otherwise, it actually fully works. Next up is this Huawei P20 Lite, and it does not work. Next up is this Galaxy Note 2, and it also does not work at all. However, its board was working when I tried to fix my old Note 2. And speaking of which, it has a very clean display, but I'll need a sharp object to use to actually power the thing on, and I'm not sure my nails will do the job. So be right back. I found something that did the job, so here you go. Oh, it's mute. I don't know why. I think I accidentally set it to mute, since I also used this as a main phone for a little bit. That's because it has TikTok on it, so that's neat. And TikTok actually works on this phone, which is funny. It's on Android 4.4.2, and it has 16 gigabytes of storage. It is giant. And it's also really nice for watching YouTube videos, since the display just is the full screen, and you get a full screen experience despite the bezels. Next is the Huawei Y6 2018 that I'm currently booting up, and it is running Android 8.0. It has 16 gigabytes of storage. It fully works. It has been my main for a little bit, 6 months to be exact, until I dropped it once. I shattered it since it fell from the first floor. And then I got a new screen and never used it again. I actually used this phone for a few years before switching to an Oppo A9 that is not currently in my room since my dad is using it. And then I switched to the next main phone that I'll show you, and finally to the one that I'm recording with right now. Next we have an Alcatel Pop Touch, whatever generation it is, 5.5 inch. Does not work at all. Absolutely demolished. Galaxy J7 does not work at all either. Has a broken AMOLED, broken display, filthy. It is also old, the 2015 model to be specific. Next up we have a Galaxy Note 4. And this one was actually one that I gave to my granddad. I gave this as a gift, and that's why you haven't seen it in my phone collections for a good while. However, this phone does not work anymore. It also boot loops. I've tried to find a Note 4 with a broken display but a working board so I can put it in here, but even getting the black plastics off of this thing has been a real challenge. So unfortunately, I don't think I'll be fixing this one. And also, I gave my Y6 2019 away, which is why you also won't see it in the collection. It's also why you won't see it in the collection. I gave it to my granddad as well, in order to replace his Note 4 that broke. Next, we have a Galaxy J7 2017. I highly doubt that this works. It has not vibrated once, and it has not shown any other signs of life. I know it does not have a display at all, but still. The J5 has shown signs of life, and it does work besides the broken AMOLED. This one probably does not. Next up, we have an LG Stylus 2, and this one bums me because this one actually does work, except for the battery, which is apparently incompatible with it, and I do not have a single battery that is compatible with it. But it is a really nice phone. Otherwise, it is running Android 5.0.2. It has 16 gigabytes of storage, I think, and it would have been really nice to use if I could. Next up is this Blackview phone. I don't know what model it is, but it does not work. Next up is this Ulefone. I don't know what this one is either. It actually does work, but the LCD is cracked. Next is this HTC One E9 Plus, which does work when it's on the charger, but outside of the charger, it doesn't really work. However, because I did sit with it on the charger for long enough, I can tell you information about it. It is also really nice for watching YouTube videos if you can get it to work. It runs Android 5.0.2. It is really good at playing games with. And it's a really neat color. It has 32 gigabytes of storage as well. So have fun with it if you can find a working one. Next is the Miria Grand 9000 apostrophe. Horrible name. But also a horrible phone. It broke easily, and it does not work. Also, my cousin and I seem to have the same idea when it comes to drawing on phones that don't seem to work anymore. They also drew a heart on this, and I'll show you which phone I drew a heart on as well. It was the S4. Nope, not this one. Never mind, I think it was the Note 2 that I tried to draw a heart on, actually. Yep, it was this one. The working Note 2. I keep the scratch backs exactly because of this. I have some really neat memories on some. For example, the one on the P6 Life was actually made up of a couple of drawings that I tried to do on this one. Yes, the heart was there as well, but so was the plant, and me holding up all of U-shaped balloons. I got really creative on these older phones once they stopped being useful as main phones. But that's only to the ones that had a plastic bag, and also I did these when I was pretty young, so hopefully my drawing skills have improved since then. Next we have the Sony Xperia XZ Premium. This is one of my favorite phones right now since it's in a beautiful color. It has 64 gigabytes of storage, it is running Android 10, and it fully works. Except for the touchscreen on the very, very top, and this side right here. But it's actually been pretty easy to get around, and it's really fun to use when it doesn't interrupt you. Next up is another one that I'll give a seizure warning for. Skip to the timestamp that I'll show right now if you want to avoid this. But this is the Google Pixel 3 XL, and this has a broken AMOLED, even though the display itself, like the screen itself, is fine. This is just tragic as well, since the back is cracked, so you really won't want to use this for anything other than how nice the display looks. But it looks nice and it doesn't work. So it's also not very useful for that. I tried searching for a new display and it turned out being as expensive as a new phone, which is ridiculous to me. I still don't understand that. Right to repair should be a thing. Anyways, next is this Galaxy A50. This is the blue one, of which I used both the board and the charging port to repair my gray but really rainbow Galaxy A50. This one fully works now. It is running Android 11. It has 128 gigabytes of storage, and it's one of my current favorite phones since it doesn't have any of the finicky touchscreen problems that the XZ Premium does. But yeah, they're both really cool. They're both newer phones as well. And it's just nice to see that they're still keeping up with most of the current day tasks that I put on for my own current phone. Obviously, they're not going through as much strain since they're not main phones, but still. This one has a broken display, and that's why I replaced the parts. Right now, I'm very interested in Dandy's World, as you can see from this wallpaper. If anyone else here is interested, let me know in the comments. I really want to play with you. Anyways, next is this Galaxy M11. It is running Android 11 as well, I think, or 12. This one has 32 gigabytes of storage, though. It does fully work. It also has a burnt LCD somehow, which I don't understand, but interesting. Both the M11 and the J3 were owned by the same person, which I suppose makes sense, given that they both are in the same kind of condition. Both shattered, both working, both have burnt LCDs for whatever reason. Next, we have my previous main phone. This is my Xiaomi 11T Pro. It fully works. It is on Android 14. It has 128 gigabytes of storage. And I really liked it while I used it, but the reason why I replaced it is because it kind of has a bad battery compared to what tasks I need it to hold up to. For example, right now, you may notice that my current phone is recording for an hour straight, and it has not lost that much battery. However, this phone tried doing the same for last year's phone collection, and I had to charge it twice just to get the full recording done. This one can just do it with no sweat, and that's why I needed a new phone. And not only that, but I also needed better editing, I needed better color accuracy, since the color accuracy on this one is actually pretty bad for such a new modern phone. But yeah, I also downloaded a very cute wallpaper on it, as you can see right here. Next, we have the Redmi A9, which just, I don't understand it even though I bought it myself. It is bigger than my main phone. It does not work at all for whatever reason. And it's in actually good condition, which is even more baffling, considering that it doesn't work. And finally, well, no, not finally, since I do have one more to cover, but before that, we have the Nokia X10. It is running Android 13. It has 64 or 128 gigabytes of storage. It is in a beautiful green color, but it is password locked, and it's password locked forever. Because it's on Android 13, this particular phone cannot be reset, which is a horrible problem to have if you're trying to, well, get it unlocked. And finally, the main phone that I have right now, the one that I'm recording on, is the Poco X6 Pro. It is also from Xiaomi. It is running Android 14, and it has 512 gigabytes of storage, and I can really tell the difference from my previous phone, and I'm really glad to have it. Now let's unlock all of the functional devices that I also bothered to charge. This one's being a pain yet again. Wow, the recording is lasting for so long that some of the phones that originally have battery are also starting to die now. That's a little depressing. The clock is also broken on this one for whatever reason. I did not realize that. This one also died during recording. I was also really interested in Void from Friday Night Funkin'. Pretty much all of my interests are shown in this phone collection, since I tend to make them phone wallpapers. Now this one's silent for whatever reason. I also had a small interest in Sonic. And that's all for today. Oh yeah, the tablets. Neither of these two work. These are the Abota Touch A300, I think, and this is the Miria Bubble. Next up is the Galaxy Tab 3 Lite. It's on Android 4.4.2 and it fully works, but I can't download anything from the Play Store. And finally is the Huawei MatePad T, which is on Android 10 and fully works. Alright, finally. That is all the phones that we have today. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!